class is so insane. Oh my god, I got another proc. Oh my god, are we ready? Oh my god. I got another proc. I love this class so much, dude. This is such a problem. This is such a problem. What is going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. This is indeed a problem. Oh my god, this thing is so much fun. I think this is the most fun that I'm having in the game right now. By far. It's really fun to play Shadow Priest. And I know you guys, a bunch of you guys been asking me, like, what are you going to main? And I'm like, I'm maining my Enhancement Shaman. And then, like, I, like, jump on my Shadow Priest, and I'm like, oh, my God, this thing. I'll talk about that later. I don't want to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about some Shadow Priest stuff today, though. We're going to talk about Shadow Priest today. I want to specifically talk about a couple builds. So, I've got them all saved here in the talent tree. A couple I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is the difference between a Tyrannical week in Mythic Plus and a Fortified week in Mythic Plus, and how that might change your build down here in the bottom in particular. We're talking mostly about the bottom section here. And then I'm going to show you a raid style build, because Shadow Priest, unlike some other classes, Shadow Priest can actually pick and choose their AoE. You can pick Shadow Crash, you can pick Mind Seer, even Void Eruption is some AoE damage. You actually pick your AoE spells, like you do. There's some classes where you don't, like Outlaw Rogue picks Blade Flurry, but it's at the very top of the tree. Like, you're not picking your AoE. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, Shadow Priest has to actually pick their AoE ability. So when you're doing that in a Mythic Plus environment, on a Tyrannical week, when bosses have like 30 to 40% more health, it can kind of suck, because you're like, damn it, I have Mind Seer and Psychic Link. Those aren't really helping me do damage on a single target, right? And that is true. So we're going to talk about how can you pivot your build, just like Ross, right? We're going to yell, pivot! How can we pivot our build a little bit so that when we get to a Tyrannical week, we can just make a couple of adjustments at the bottom here and have more AoE damage, or sorry, more single target damage on boss fights. So we're going to look at that. Then I'm going to show you a raid build where I just kind of look at this. So here's one of the builds I'm going to look at very first. I think it's probably the best iteration that you can go with. Remember, guys, this is level 70. We're looking at level 70 builds in Dragonflight. I have a tier set on. I'm item level 400, basically. I mean, this is kind of what we're looking at. This is not level 60. It's level 70, and this is going to be how it works. So in the bottom of the tree, there's some important things that have changed. Normally, we wouldn't even take Mind Flay Insanity in Mythic Plus because it's only for single target. However, it is significantly helpful on Tyrannical weeks. So we're talking about Tyrannical weeks in Mythic Plus when the bosses are the main problem you're dealing with. You're still going to have Shadow Crash, Psychic Link, Mind Seer, all that jazz. You're still going to keep Void Eruption. But in the bottom, you're going to go Encroaching Shadows, Mind Devourer, down to Idol of Yogg-Saron. That hasn't changed. What you're going to add to it now is Insidious Ire, which is important. Idol of N'Zoth, which is basically more AoE damage, so don't even worry about that right now. Insidious Ire is the big one. And Mind Flay Insanity is the big one. So when you get to that boss fight in the dungeon, you have some extra tools that are going to help you do single target damage. Mind Flay Insanity in particular. So this does 20,000 shadow damage. Your regular Mind Flay does about 13.4. This thing does 20k, and you can do it. You can keep it up the entire boss fight, which is really great. On top of that, you're going to have Insidious Ire. Well, you have Shadow Word Pain, Devouring Plague, and Vampiric Touch active on one target. Well, any target, but active on the same target. Your Mind Blast deals 40% more damage. This is kind of like, I was actually experimenting with this on AoE, because of course Mind Blast will cleave with Psychic Link. So if now obviously everything else has to have Vampiric Touch on them. So if I have Vampiric Touch on all of these enemies, and then I put a Devouring Plague on one enemy, and I hit that enemy with Mind Blast, those Mind Blasts are 40% stronger, and they'll cleave that extra 40% damage through Psychic Link. So this is not really a realistic scenario. You're never, in my experience so far playing Shadow Priest, the new Shadow Priest, you're not going to press Devouring Plague in AoE. It's just not worth it, especially not if you get a Mind Devourer proc. You need to press Mind Seer, or you're just wasting damage. So realistically speaking, Insidious Ire is just for when you reach the bosses in Mythic Plus. Here's how this is going to kind of look. Again, we're going to be triggering Devouring Plague to give us our Mind Flay Insanity, and then we need to channel that Mind Flay Insanity. Now, the only thing to really look out for on this build is when you do get Devouring Plague up on the boss, you really want to maximize the amount of times you pressed Mind Blast, because Mind Blast is getting 40% more damage. 40% more damage. So make sure, especially in your Mindbender window, when you have Mindbender up and you hit Devouring Plague on the enemy, you must prioritize Mind Blast. Even if you have a Mind Flay Insanity sitting there ready to go, you have 10 seconds to consume the Insanity. So don't freak out about it. If you have a Mind Blast that's off the global cooldown, you should spend it, because Devouring Plague is on the enemy, and it means your Mind Blast is going to hit 40% harder. Sorry, guys, that was a little Twitch sub there. Okay? So let me just show you this. So you run the Mythic Plus, you've done all the AoE stuff, and then you get to the first boss in your Mythic Plus dungeon. You have all your cooldowns up. It's going to look something like this. You want to get your dots going right away with Shadow Crash, because your mastery tells you that all of your damage goes up when you have more dots on the enemy. For each dot you have in the enemy, your mastery goes up. So let's get all of our dots rolling on the enemy. Then we're going to pop Power Infusion, Mind Games into Mind Bender. Okay, then we're doing all the mind, but we still have Inescapable Torment, which is the slash the Mind Bender does. So we still want to do our Mind Bender combo, but just remember, as soon as we press Devouring Plague, we've got a new Mind Flay button to kind of worry about. Okay, so here we go. Shadow Crash into Power Infusion into Mind Games, Mind Bender. Then I'm doing Mind Blast. Mind Blast. We're gonna fill for a second. We're gonna do. There we go. Then we're gonna press Void Eruption into Mind Blast. Now we're gonna get Devouring Plague on the enemy. Now we're doing 40% more damage with our Mind Blast. We're going to do our Mind Blast into another Mind Blast because Devouring Plague's on the enemy. Then we're going to channel our Mind Flay Insanity. So I held my Mind Flay Insanity for a minute there because our Devouring Plague was on the enemy, and it makes our Mind Blast do way more damage. That's the only thing to kind of focus on. You got to watch out for that. Okay? You basically always want to press Mind Blast. Sorry, guys, another sub on Twitch there. You want to have your Mind Blasts going into the enemy when Devouring Plague is on them. If you don't, you're wasting 40% of that damage. So just something to kind of think about. Okay? This is how it kind of plays out. Okay, Devouring Plague's up there. Let's Mind Blast twice. There we go. Lots of extra damage from Mind Blast there. Our Thing from Beyond is here. Very good. Shadow Crash. There. We're going to do this for a second. Now we've got Mind Bender. Let's go Mind Bender into Mind Blast, Shadow or Death. And then we're going to channel for a second and then Mind Blast. Now we're going to use our Devouring Plague into the Insanity proc, into another Mind Blast because Devouring Plague is up there. Okay, there we go. Try to fit in as many Mind Blasts into this little Devouring Plague window as you can. It can be kind of difficult to manage, but if you do it right, it'll really up your damage quite a bit. Now, our damage on single target is not that great. Why? Because we're in Mythic Plus. We're not in a raid, and so we're going to be doing less damage. Shadow Priest single target damage overall is just not that great, guys. It's really not that great, actually. It's in a really strange place. I've tried a bunch of different builds to try and make this thing hit harder, and it just kind of struggles. But you're going to see your damage is going to look like this. Devouring Plague, going to be way at the top. Mind Blast going to be way at the top as well. Why? Because of Insidious Ire. That's why your Mind Blast is even higher. So this is one build that you can run. Let me try and find it again. No, I don't want to report it. Oh my God, stop it, please. Stop. I hate my dots. They keep rolling. So Mind Flay Insanity is way up there as well because we kept triggering it, of course. Oh my God, it's back. I hate this thing so much. Mind Flay Insanity and Devouring Plague are way up there, and Mind Blast as well. This is what it's going to look like. Now, there's another build you can try, and it involves the Idol of Cthulhu line. So we're going to switch to that. Idol of Cthulhu. Again, we're in Mythic Plus, but we've gotten to the boss. So the reason that these builds... Oh, this is not right. What happened here? This got all screwed up. That's okay. We're fixing it. We're fixing it. This is going to make your... So your Mind Bender does a little bit more damage here. Oh, no. I think I still wanted Insanity in this build. Sorry. There we go. This is it. I still want Insanity because Insanity is really, really good for single target. So you're losing a little bit of AoE damage from an Inescapable Torment on both of these builds, but you're gaining, the Insanity buff. Now, what are we doing with this build? Well, Screams of the Void makes our Mind Flay have a chance to spawn a little Tendril, and he's going to Mind Flay as well. Sorry, that's what Idol of Cthulhu does. The Screams of the Void makes our dots tick faster, which is really good. The dots ticking faster is more damage. It's just good all around. So we're going to start the fight the exact same way again. I don't like this line of play. I'm just going to say I don't like this build as much because Idol of Cthulhu is a chance of happening. If you look at our last build, the Echoing Void is guaranteed damage. It's not very much, but it's guaranteed damage. It just comes from your dots, right? So each time your Shadow Word Pain Vampiric Touch can do this Echoing Void. The Echoing Void can sort of collapses, and it does shadow damage. So it only did 2% extra damage getting Idol of N'Zoth, but it's just free damage. And on AoE in Mythic Plus, on the AoE packs, Idol of N'Zoth is going to crush your enemies. It's going to be insane damage. So you're basically like getting a little bit of single target damage from Idol of N'Zoth. You're getting a ton of AoE damage. Really, the main reason you go down this way is to get Insidious Ire for Mind Blast. Now, here's the other build. Screams of the Void will give you more AoE damage as well, just like Idol of N'Zoth does. And it does that because if you're channeling Mind Seer, you have a chance to spawn a Lasher, and that Lasher will do Mind Seer as well. Now, I tried this on the dummies. The Mind Seer was very rare when it procced, and it also didn't do very much damage. It did like 2% of my damage. So again, I don't really like Screams of the Void. And then Isle of Cthulhu, of course, we'll just have to see. We'll try it on this fight here, but ultimately, this isn't really my favorite way to play. Again, we're going to start out with Shadow Crash to get our dots rolling right away. Then we'll go into Mind Games, and we'll do Power Infusion. So here we go. Power Infusion. We'll get our Mindbender up. Same rotation, guys. Shadow Word Death. We're going to do Void Eruption, more Mind Blasts into a Devouring Plague, and then we're going to channel our Mind Flay Insanity. There we go. Okay. We got another Devouring Plague. Let's press it. Mind Flay Insanity. Okay. Then we're going to go Devouring Plague again. Mind Flay Insanity. It doesn't matter if we put Mind Blasts into the Devouring Plague window. Like, it does a little bit because you get a little bit more damage. But realistically, you know, there's a Void Tendril. We got one to spawn. Very, very cool. Okay. There's kind of not really a good time to press Divine Star. You could take Halo as well. I know lots of people are taking Halo right now, and it's fine. I like Divine Star personally. Okay, we're just going from Devouring Plague into Mind Flay Insanity. That's what we're worried about, okay? And then we're filling with our Mind Blasts. You want to be channeling Mind Flay as much as possible because that will increase your chance of spawning a Void Tendril. Okay, that's what you want to be doing. I actually shouldn't have used my Mind Blast there. Okay, we're going to do our Shadow Crash again into Mind Flay Insanity. Okay, now we got our Mind Benders here. Let's do our combo. Mind Blast, Shadow Word Death. We're not necessarily going to get 2 Shadow Word Deaths in a real fight, but whatever. There we got a Void Lasher finally. Very cool. Oh, we got a free proc. Sometimes you will have to do 2 Devouring Plagues in a row. Ideally, you never want to do 2 Devouring Plagues in a row because that's going to waste one of your Insanity procs. So you basically really, really try not to do 2 Devouring Plagues in a row. That's going to screw you up big time. You don't want to do that, okay? That's the basic rotation there. You see, we're basically maintaining 30k. That was a little bit more than the last time. So with this build, if you get the tendrils to spawn, you can see the Mind Flay Tendril, very good damage actually on single target. 8% of our damage was just from that Void Tendril. Very good. My argument against this build would be to say that in the AoE situations, the Idol of N'Zoth Echoing Void collapsing thing going on, that'll do way more AoE damage than the Lasher will do from Idol of Cthulhu. I just felt it was really inconsistent, this Lasher. I'm not saying it's bad. This is a choice you guys need to make. I'm just giving you the bullet points here. I think that Idol of N'Zoth does better AoE damage more consistently than Idol of Cthulhu does. But if you're looking at a Tyrannical week, this seemed to do more damage for me on single target right there. That seemed to do more damage. So that is good. That's what you want. On Tyrannical weeks, the bosses have 30 or 40% more health. This is where you want the single target damage. So you can make up your mind on your own there. That's kind of how I would think about it. Those are the 2 builds that I think you should really consider in Mythic Plus on Tyrannical weeks. On Fortified weeks, it doesn't really matter. You can do the exact same builds if you want to. You can do the Cthulhu build or you can do the N'Zoth build on Fortified weeks because you're mostly focused on trash pulls. Or you could try one other build that I actually kind of think is fun and interesting. It's a new Shadow Word Death build. I'm going to show you this on AoE packs. So it's a Fortified week now. It's the regular mobs that are all buffed up. They're going to be strong. You want to do lots of AoE damage. We've got our Mindbender line still. We have our Idol of Yogg-Saron that never changes. Now we've moved into Shadow Word Death territory. Pain and Death makes our Shadow Word Death cleave anything that has Shadow Word Pain on them within 40 yards. And then Death Speaker makes our Shadow Word Pain have a chance to reset the cooldown on Shadow Word Death. And of course, Shadow Word Death over here will also, if it fails to kill an enemy, its cooldown will get reset, so you're going to get that out anyway. This also coincides with our Mindbender proc, because the Inescapable Torment procs off of Shadow Word Death. So if we get some resets on Shadow Word Death in our Mindbender window, not only is it helping our Mindbender, but it's also cleaving all the Shadow Word Death damage because of Pain and Death. So here's what it looks like. I think it's actually really fun. Unfortunately, the proc rate on it seems horrendously low, but we're going to see how it goes. So we're going to start with Shadow Crash. Same combo into Power Infusion, into Mind Games. Here we go. Then we go here. Summon our Mindbender. Oh, we got a Shadow Word Death proc right away. We're going to press it. Then we're going to proc those. We're going to do our regular rotation here. Here we go. Waiting for a Shadow Word Death proc. I'm trying to get a Shadow Word Death. I'm hoping it procs from my Shadow Word Pain. That's what I'm waiting for. If I'm not getting it, I'm just doing my regular rotation. No big deal. Shadow Word Death's coming off cooldown. I'm going to press it. There we go. So we got like one proc. This is what I mean about the inconsistencies. It felt kind of inconsistent to me. However, it's not just about the Mindbender window. We got a Shadow Word Death proc right there. Let's press it. There we go. We pressed it. So anytime you get a Shadow Word Death proc, you want to press it because it's going to be cleaving that damage for you, which is super cool. I'm not even paying attention to how much insanity I have. This is terrible. Okay, that's okay. Let's keep going. We're going to wait for some more Shadow Word Death procs. I want you to see how many procs you can get on this thing over the course of a fight. We're going to hold our Shadow Word Death right now because Mindbender is coming. We're going to reset our dots. Then we're going to go Mindbender into Shadow Word Death, hoping to get a reset here on Shadow Word Death. Okay? Really hoping for that reset. If we get it, we got to press it right away. Besides, we're just doing Minds here the rest of the time. Regular rotation stuff. We still haven't got a proc down here. So this is what I mean. This is a fun and exciting build, but it's either bugged right now or it just doesn't proc that often, and that's pretty sad if that's the case. There, it procced finally outside of my Mindbender window, of course. It just seems to proc really, really low. So I don't like that at all. This is not as consistent as a lot of other builds will be. But I just thought it was kind of interesting. If it did proc more, it would be way, way better. Even with the crappy procs that I had there, okay? Even with the bad procs, let's look at what happened. Pain and Death still did 4.2% of my damage. That's actually kind of insane. Now, I was actually shocked, but the first time I tested this, I was like, oh, I didn't get any procs at all, but it still did 4.2% of my damage. It's not even including the actual Shadow Word Death damage itself, which is 2%. So Shadow Word Death is contributing almost 7% of our damage, which is not bad, actually, at all. And imagine if I had gotten some more procs, it would be even better. Also, you get to cast Shadow Word Death all the time on an enemy that is low on health, right? So if it fails to kill an enemy, I wasn't even getting the Death and Madness proc. So you can Shadow Word Death enemies when they're below 20% health, and if they don't die, you get to cast it again. So I wasn't even getting that bonus here because the dummies have maximum health all the time. So I actually think there's a secret sauce build here going on with Pain and Death that might be good. And it's going to rely on you kind of like sniping enemies that are low on health to get this extra Death and Madness proc. Then when you're in your Mindbender window, you're really hoping to get resets off of Death Speaker. That's kind of what you're doing. Also, this scales with more targets. If I had 8 targets, my Shadow Crash would have applied Shadow Word Pain to 8 targets. So then I would have more chances. I only had like 5 targets there most of the time. So that's 3 extra targets to try and get me these procs. So I'm actually thinking this could be a really good build. Only for Fortified weeks, though. I think this is really, really bad on Tyrannical weeks. Okay? That's all I really wanted to talk about today. I just wanted to talk about these different builds that Shadow Priest has, how much fun I'm having with this freaking spec, and the flexibility that I think this thing has in the talents. You are kind of locked into always taking Idol of Yogg-Saron and Mind Devourer in particular. You're kind of always locked in there, which kind of sucks. But there are multiple lines you can go down. You can go down N'Zoth line, you can go down the Cthulhu line, or you can do this weird Pain and Death, and then Death Speaker kind of build that I'm really digging. So let me know what you guys think about in the comments down below about these builds. I think they're really cool, and I think there is some flexibility for Shadow Priest when you have a Tyrannical week in Mythic Plus versus a Fortified week in Mythic Plus. Oh, I just want to show you one more thing. I will show you the raid build. One more thing I'll show you. The pure single target raid build. Sorry, guys. I totally forgot about that. Last thing I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to jump off here. This is the pure single target raid build. I don't really like it. I don't think it's super great. I'm struggling to figure out kind of how to play it well, but this is what you're going to end up doing, okay? So you are taking now Dark Ascension, which just makes you do more damage, basically. Generates a lot of insanity. You are getting Mind Flay Insanity still. You still have Mindbender. He's only got one Inescapable Torment. You still have Yogg-Saron, and now you have Void Torrent, which does absurd amounts of single target damage. So we don't have Psychic Link anymore. We don't have Mind Seer. Okay, everything else is kind of similar. We are going to add Mind Spike to our rotation now. So here's how this works. If you get a Mind Spike proc from Surge of Darkness, you can press it. If you don't have a proc from Surge of Darkness, do not press Mind Spike at all. Start your dots with Shadow Crash. Same rotation. Shadow Crash, Mind Games into Power Infusion. Then I'm actually going to start with Void Torrent to build up a whole bunch of insanity. Then we're going to go Mindbender, and we're going to go after. I'll just show you after that. Okay? So we're going to go Shadow Crash, Power Infusion. We'll just do this just for fun. We're going to do this. Okay, here we go. We'll channel this, then we'll do our Mindbender. Here we go. Oops, I screwed that up so hard right there. It's okay. We're still doing Devouring Plague into Mind Flay Insanity. That's still the regular kind of rotation. If you're Devouring Plagues on the enemy, though, you want to make sure you hit them with that Mind Blast. Okay, Devouring Plague's back. You kind of just keep... Okay, our Void Torrent's back. Let's press it. Very important button to press on cooldown. It generates an absolutely absurd amount of insanity for us. Okay, here we go. We're sitting at 2 stacks of Mind Blast, which is really bad. Don't ever want to do that. Sometimes you can get a little bit, the rotation gets a little bit strange here. Not entirely sure what to do myself. Okay, here we go. We're going to go here. We're going to go Dark Ascension in a second. Once we get through our Void Torrent, we're going to go Mindbender into Dark Ascension. Then we're going to go like this, into this. Want to trigger as many of these as we can because this gives us a lot of damage, right? Our single target damage that's not dots is buffed by Dark Ascension. So this is kind of, we're gaining some damage here. But you can see we're hovering like 30k. It's not ideal. I don't think it's super great. I don't think Shadow Priest single target damage is just super great in general. So, but this is kind of the adaptation that I was making for Rabe. I do think that Void Torrent can end up being a significant amount of damage if you play it right. And I think with more haste, this will, like, I only have 19% haste here. You have way, way, way more damage with more haste. So that's the build there in a nutshell. So we'll just look at the details really quickly. Devouring Plague, Void Torrent. Look at Void Torrent's way up there, and Insanity's way up there as well. So I do think that this is something to consider for raid build. I'm still working on it. I don't think it's a perfect raid build, but it's something interesting. Okay? But those are the builds. Let me know what you guys think in those comments down below, particularly about the Tyrannical and Fortified builds. I think they're kind of interesting. I love the flexibility of Shadow Priest. I'm kind of falling in love with this spec. In every way. It's just so much fun to play. So let me know what you think in those comments down below. I love you all, and I will see you in the next one.